my goodness! Hello, world! What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. Avengers Endgame is the culmination of... Somebody said, yeah, already. All I do is say the title. That's how hype we are. Avengers Endgame is the culmination of over 20 Marvel Studios films that aims to somehow provide a satisfying conclusion to a dizzying number of emotionally complex character arcs and tie up a ridiculous amount of loose ends. Writing a movie isn't easy. Writing a good one is damn hard. Writing this one should have been impossible. But a whole lot of tears, cheers, and $1.4 billion later, I'd say these guys nailed it. Folks, the writers responsible for Avengers Endgame, Christopher Markus and Stephen McFeely, are here. How about that? You guys excited? I'm excited. They're excited. You're excited too, I can tell. We're all very excited. If the box office numbers are any indication, I am not alone when I say I love this movie. I love it 3000. We'll bring them out. Yeah, I know. We'll bring them out. We'll bring them out in just a moment. But before we do, we've got the trailer for the film. So let's go ahead and run that clip.
God, seems like 1,000 years ago. I fought my way out of that cave. Became Iron Man. Realized I loved you. I know I said no more surprises, but I was really hoping to pull off one last one.
The world has changed. None of us can go back. All we can do is our best. And sometimes the best that we can do is to start over.
I saw all these people die. I keep telling everybody they should move on. Some do, but not us.
Even if there's a small chance, we owe this to everyone who's not in this room to try.
We will. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. I like this one.
You better make a ridiculous amount of noise. Christopher Markus and Stephen McFeely. First and foremost, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing this. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm so excited you guys are here. We're all excited you guys are here. And I got to say, I admire your restraint. Had I made something that just grows over $1 billion, I would have showed up full Ted DiBiase with a diamond-encrusted blazer. I would have, or my bathrobe. I would have gone the other way. Either way, you look great, and I'm very excited you're here. How are you guys doing? How is life right now?
It's good. It's confusing. It's like you're shown this. It's like going to the Grand Canyon, and you can't really see it. You see it better in pictures. Like somebody shows me this number, and I'm like, do I get that?
It's not a real.
Is that mine now?
That's nice.
It's not your first rodeo. You guys, this is, I think, at least your third film that's crossed the $1 billion mark. Fastest the film's ever done it.
That's true. This is our
but it's the third time.
$3 billion film.
My God.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean,
So how many golden
not quite all
toilets
us.
do you own at this point? No.
Listen, I mean,
I'm just
taxes.
I'm
It all
wearing my
goes out in taxes.
Yeah, don't get me started on taxes. God, those taxes.
finger thing means the taxes.
Yeah.
Here's the bigger question, actually, because when you work on a film, especially this one, everyone prior to it coming out, oh, it's going to make $1 billion. Given this one, easily, it's going to make it. Is that as exciting as it is terrifying a prospect leading up to it for you guys?
Well, it's also anytime anybody says that before it comes out, you just want to smack them because it's like you're setting us up. Like if we make $900 million, it's a failure because you said that.
Because
like-
you said that. It's an enormous responsibility, is what it is, when you work on a film
Yeah.
like this at a certain point. I'm really excited. We've been briefed. We've had the discussion. We're not going to spoil anything, but there's a lot to talk about without spoiling anything.
Talk around things.
We're going to talk around all day. One of the things that I'm most curious about that I haven't really seen anywhere yet, you guys have been working together for a long time. How did you even meet? How did you come to be this duo?
Grad school.
Okay,
This
there we go.
duo.
Keep going to school, and
stay in school.
eventually.
Yeah, we met in grad school. We were each trying to write, novels and short stories and such, and we realized, it's difficult, and you don't necessarily make money to eat food. So at one point we said, I hear they pay writers in Hollywood, and we didn't have any aversion to that. We liked the idea of, and we liked movies, and so we moved down to LA and the important thing is we gave ourselves 4 years to sort of get in the game and have an agent and that kind of stuff. And the idea would be that if we didn't, after 4 years, have any prayer, we'd shake hands and go on and have another life. And that really lit a fire under us. So.
Yeah. And I had no idea what that other life was going to be. So.
What was the first big? What kept you from going to that other life? What was the first big thing?
Got
I was
an
like, it's working.
agent,
Yeah.
and that was a little tiny script that wasn't supposed to ever get made. Eventually did, but it was just like a sample. And then the job that sort of got us around town in Hollywood is an HBO movie called The Life and Death of Peter Sellers, and it sort of was an interesting break the fourth wall type movie, and a lot of people read that.
So amazing to think of, like, that was what, 2004, 2003?
The movie came out in 4, yeah.
Yeah. And then, a couple of years later, $3 billion movie.
We are a 15-year
Yeah.
overnight sensation.
Nothing in our early resume would indicate blockbusting.
That's just it. I was looking at the IMDb, and it's not as though nobody's worked at this scale before. Period. You were in uncharted waters. You're breathing rare air. You're doing stuff nobody's ever done before with this film. But in general, looking at it, you can sort of see a progression in the last couple of films of how you would have gotten here. But I feel like your scale has exploded since you guys have paired up with the Russo brothers, and I think the same could almost be said for them. Like the team that you have all formed together has sort of yielded the ability to work at this level. Does it feel that way? Have you feel like you've opened up secret powers through this team, so to speak?
It feels like we have hit a sweet spot with this team, that there's a way that we all work together that's very organic and democratic and gets the movie to a large size, but also I think it's very well made by the time it gets through all 4 of us. If there was only one of us or one of them, there would be some sort of tension or something. But it's a
Marvel's allowed
team.
this, right? But in some ways it's been a film school. Undoubtedly, we are better writers in 2019 than we were in 2014, and the Russos probably better directors because we've had this sandbox to play in, where anything you imagine pretty much can happen.
I've read a lot about how highly collaborative, and you spoke to it just a moment ago. Was it that way from day one? Did you guys take time to find what that collaborative relationship was going to be like amongst your team? Or
The chemistry was pretty good, although I will say on remember, we'd written the first draft of Winter Soldier, this is the first movie we did together, and they said, all right, we're going to go find some directors. We've got these guys from television. They're going to be amazing. Really? They're going to be amazing?
try harder.
Yeah, and we had, right, they're from Community. Yeah. Right. So it was a great year working with them and improving the script, and so the chemistry was wonderful, but we didn't know whether they could actually do it. And on day 1 of Winter Soldier, actually the first 4 days of Winter Soldier, we filmed an elevator fight sequence for 4 days.
The elevator.
The elevator. It's great, and it became this iconic thing, but on day 4, everyone's going, we're really in the 4 days in the elevator?
Boy,
We're screwed. And then they cut it together real fast, and everyone went, "Oh, this is amazing." We're
They
in
know
good
what
hands.
they're doing, and they know what to spend time on, and you know.
That's wild. The first thing you guys worked on together has become this iconic sequence that people know. At the elevator sequence is now a thing. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah,
Shot in a box.
That's right.
Yeah.
A box that no one could really see into, like, because it was an actual, you know, four-sided elevator.
Can I ask you a question? How do you write something that is that constrained and that confined to a space that small? How detailed, how granular does it get at that point when you guys are constructing that scene or writing that moment that leads to that scene?
We write a fight, you know, and we'll write the dialogue and we'll write whatever character dynamics need to be going on in that. But if you ever saw either of us fight, see, Cap slaps everybody and then falls down.
Withering insults fly.
Cap protects his glasses. It is then handed over to people who know how to fight, who then take it, you know, 10 levels up, and then we will write that down so that everyone knows exactly what's going to happen.
That begs the question then to extrapolate that further. These films have become known for their like massive, epic, climactic battle sequences. That's a given. You go into a Marvel film, you know, I get into that third act, there's going to be some kind of massive battle sequence. And you guys have done an incredible job of differentiating that they're all individual unit, just like the elevator sequence is its own sequence. Each one of these battles has its own story within it.
Yeah.
You know, when you sit down to do that, do you bring those fighting guys into the room, or do you have to start at a much higher level? How do you?
Our job is to keep an eye on character and story, right? And so we will, as Chris said, write essentially the first best draft we can. And say in an example like Civil War has a big fight at the airport, right? So we write a 15-minute airport scene and has lots of stuff that remains in the movie. We say Ant-Man goes giant and he does these things, right? But the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts, left turn, right turn, gets thrown over to previs. For anybody who doesn't know what it is basically advanced storyboards, right? These really creative people coming up with all sorts of intricate physical gags and sometimes emotional character gags. And then that'll sort of ping pong back and forth so that it'll come back to us. It'll be probably too long and have too many things. And we say, okay, that's great. That's great. Let's not forget this guy's in pain. This person's in love, whatever.
It's pretty amazing. One of the other things, like going to the other side of that spectrum, we talk about how grand the scale is. The other thing I love is that from now to the end of time, people are still finding little details, little Easter eggs, little moments, throwaway lines. There's one that I won't spoil. It's in this film in particular that I was blown away by, and I wonder. How does that work? Do you guys finish the story, you get everything there, and you go, okay, now where can we fold in an obscure reference to a character that may or may not ever exist? Like,
Most of them come out organically as you're writing it. There are so many, there's 21 movies before this, and there's threads from all of them that you can pick up. Yeah. And things people would say anyway in the course of the movie, or characters you would have come in anyway, can become Easter eggs because we have such a backlog to pull from. So, it just so happens that Howard Stark's driver is Jarvis from the Agent Carter TV show, because Howard Stark needs a driver. It's like, well, let's go get, there's endless,
doesn't hurt that you guys made that show.
No, and we like him.
Which I love that. That was one of my favorite shows, by the way. That was fantastic. So
Thank you.
That's a great little moment to see.
And it has a nice continuity between Tony and Jarvis, and then Jarvis the AI, and then Vision, and
totally. How big is your whiteboard? I mean, like when you've
pretty big.
Where do you begin? Because as I said in the intro, there is, and as you just said now, 20 years of, 20 some odd films, over 10 years of films. For anybody, that's daunting. Where did you guys start?
Well, we a little panic to start.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had to have been, right?
You bury it. We got the job as we were starting to shoot Civil War, so that's 2015. And so on the set of Civil War, after the morning, Chris and I eat bagels and say, good work, we will go back to the office and read comics. And by the end of that period, we had this big manifesto of sort of 60 pages of ideas.
Well, we wrote down every single character available to us in the MCU who hadn't died or was in the comics who could logically be brought in that they had the rights to, and put them on the wall.
Right.
and there were something like 70, 80 characters. And for a while, we just sat there and went, I've never seen that guy and that guy together before. Like, I mean, it was very, very basic playing with your toys kind of thing. Like, hey, they both can fly. That'd be fun. And story begins to cohere from those little things.
That sounds like such a fun room to be in.
It was a little, if you've seen A Beautiful Mind, right? It's a lot of just serial killer stuff on the wall.
People would come in and back out pretty quickly. Like, oh, you guys are fine.
General rule of thumb is like a minute, 1 page per minute on a screenplay. Do you remember the final page count on this thing?
I mean, we probably turned in an initial one in the 130s so that people wouldn't freak. But knowing that as production goes on, things tend to expand. So the movie is 3 hours. If you're I'm sure there's a 180-page draft out there somewhere, but it's fragmented all over the place. Yeah.
Here's a dumb question: was it hard to even get it down to 3? Like, how much did you guys not get to tell? How much did you have to part with? And were those difficult decisions?
They're not difficult because it becomes very, they're sentimentally difficult, but they're not difficult on a making a better movie system basis. Can't talk. In that you cut out everything that isn't on the story. And if we started someone's story too early and you're watching them make breakfast at home and it's only at the end of the scene that they get the phone call to call them off to action, none of this happens in the movie, but
Spoiler alert.
No
breakfast.
And the breakfast could have great character, and you've never seen Captain America make eggs before, and it's great. But it only has anything to do with the movie at the end.
Yeah.
You got to cut up. You got to cut the eggs.
We literally, you forget this. We had a draft where he made eggs for Scott Lang.
Oh, that's right.
Did that get shot? Is that somewhere on a cutting board?
No. Even we.
But plenty of things did.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then here's a
Don't
follow-up.
spoil. Maybe it won't be on the Blu-ray, and then people will go, "Where is that?"
I'm not saying what it is.
Well, here's another thought, because everybody immediately goes, "Will it be on the Blu-ray?" But something really weird and interesting just happened recently. I don't even know why it's not being talked about more, but Quentin Tarantino, I don't know if you guys have seen this, he recut Hateful Eight for Netflix into 4 episodes.
Oh, weird.
Which sounds super weird, right? But he had a ton of extra footage, and he had other things. Like, he had scenes play out in different ways. And like, if all filmmakers, I would have thought he's the last dude to recut the film, right? But like, no, he was really into it, and he recut it, and they re-released it, and Netflix told no one. But like, this is a bit, I know, right? Like,
So
super
this is
weird.
what, it's been secretly on Netflix for
It's just like out there. It's just on Netflix.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But it started back. I saw that, and I was reading about that, and I was like, holy crap, here we are, 3-hour movie, Disney Plus. Has anyone brought
exploiting
the
this
idea
for
up?
more money, Matt?
Yes, there's got to be a way. Let's go to 2
We're
billion.
still milking the initial run. Anything's possible. I don't know. This thing is maybe 3 episodes, but
You could do it? Yeah.
I don't know whether you should, but
That's the bigger question.
Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
It is one overarching story, best swallowed whole.
Best swallowed whole. Yeah, all right, fair enough. A couple of more questions, then we're going to go to the audience, because I just got the signal. We got some from online, definitely some in the room. Again, and I think we can talk about this without spoiling it, but the film leads us in a place that for every question it answers, it intentionally leaves a lot of open questions and leaves the world wide open to, how do people live in this space now? How does this work? You guys, I think you're taking a break. I haven't seen anything officially that you're doing anything else for Marvel just yet. But just as a thought exercise, when you were working through this, did you answer any of those questions for yourself of what does it look like after this movie even ends? What does this world look like beyond what we're shooting?
To a certain extent. I mean, I think we answered some questions as to, where did people go, or where might that person be in the next couple of years, given what they went through now. We didn't tell anybody.
But I mean, I think there's some rich things for several characters, and some of whom I think are going to get streaming series, and my hope is that those things in our head are probably going to get explored in even better ways.
Is that a tough part of it that you have to let go after
A
working on it
little
for so
bit.
hard?
I mean, we're emotionally attached, but we're also exhausted. So where does that, I want it to do well. Will it do well if I'm tired in doing it, or is it if perhaps fresh blood is an important element of keeping the MCU going?
How's that work? Does Feige just walk in and just like, give me the keys?
Give me the
Just like-
keys. Yeah, you're done. Thank you. You don't get to drive
Put it
anymore.
down.
I'm calling you a cab.
Pretty amazing. All right, well, we're going to take the questions. Far be it from me to rob our amazing fans of having time to ask you guys stuff. But I will remind the 7 people that haven't seen this movie yet that Avengers Endgame is out there. Go see it if you haven't. And for everyone else, let's all go see it again. Our first question comes from Twitter. This is from @JHayes88 for Markus and McFeely. Due to the nature of Cap's powers, was it harder to write for him in movies with the other bigger heroes, Iron Man, Hulk, etc., versus writing for Cap in his solo films? # don't spoil the end game. Well done.
No, because he provides a nice break. I mean, all those guys, Iron Man, the Hulk, they lend themselves to massive pieces of CG, and somebody throws a moon at you, or you punch down a building, and they're great. But if you only had that, it would be sort of deafening after a while. And when you can cut to Cap, it's always a relatively human moment. And it's always, the aperture closes down, and you go, oh, this person is trying their hardest to do one small thing. And it makes it all very relatable as opposed to nothing but a wide shot of chaos. So we love Cap.
Everybody loves Cap. I was just thinking while you're talking about the difference in all these characters. You said 70 some odd on the board when you were looking at all of them. Rough number. I don't know. Did all of them make it in one way or another?
Not all of them made it in, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 made it in.
That's wild.
People coming in. Many people have seen the movie, and so some people come in various ways and reasonably for only a couple sentences.
What's the craziest one that didn't make it in?
The Living Tribunal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was not. So that's a deep comic cut. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
There are people that know.
Right. Thanks for coming out of the basement, man. Good to see you here today.
Did you even get to pitch that?
We wrote it.
We wrote it.
We wrote it.
Holy Christ!
I think at some point it got somebody storyboarded it. It was awesome,
that was
but
cool.
it was like for those of you who don't know, the Living Tribunal is a giant head, cosmically large, 4-faced head that passes judgment on you on a cosmic scale. And when you go to that, it's really hard to come back from that and then tell any other story. Well, why don't you just ask the giant head what should happen? Right. He seems to be in charge of the universe.
To have all the answers.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you just get him to kill Thanos? He clearly can.
The giant head.
Okay, we can't do the giant head.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your question online. How many we got in the room? 4? Fantastic. Let's do it up. All right, first question, microphone. I think you. Let's start. Let's see.
Hey.
First of all, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the film. It means
Thank
a
you.
lot. I was lucky enough to be on some of the sets in Atlanta for both Infinity War.
I see that hat.
Yeah.
That's Dave's Goldbug hat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Huge fan. Love the experience. But from your side, from the script writing side, in terms of the massive props and sets they would make, did you ever think, like, I wonder if they can do this, or did you just leave them? They'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah. When we walk on, it's mostly I'm a kid when I walk on the big sets. And that's been the case. We've been really fortunate to have a few movies made. And every time I walk on something that's I walked onto I was Lion Witch in the Wardrobe and walked into a forest, on a hanger. Like, oh my God, they made a forest. These icicles are made of plastic, but they look amazing. So I'm constantly impressed with the skill and craftsmanship of the men and women who work on these movies. It blows me away. And we've been on enough of them now so that we can sort of project, all right, that looks real, and that's a green screen, and that's going to look as real as that. And I am never worried about that.
It's a great question. Thank you. We've got 3 more. Next one, right here. You have a microphone. Go for it.
Yes. So I know it's been said in earlier interviews that Endgame kind of concludes the storylines that begin in Winter Soldier and Civil War, which you guys wrote. And a big part of those movies is the friendship between Steve and Bucky, and Steve discovering that Bucky is still alive and he no longer has to be alone in the present. Do you feel that this movie gives a satisfying conclusion to their definitely 2, arguably 4 movie arc of constantly fighting for one another and losing each other?
Well, without giving away any spoilers of the movie, yes, in that I think they're both, they're both healthy enough now to move on a little bit. Steve has gotten Bucky all the way to being a pretty much genuine hero. I don't know if you'd, want to say freight car to him yet, but on the whole, he seems stable. But they have lives, and
And yes, undoubtedly future stories to tell. So.
Sure. Thank you for your question. And kudos, I'm bringing notes. Respect.
yes, indeed.
We've got time for... that was the director's cut. We've got time for 2 more. Next one appears to be, you have a microphone. Go for it.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you. I've seen it 3 times. I'm seeing it again tomorrow.
Thank you.
No problem.
No, we should get this man a chair. Just
No, he's been sitting for collectively 9 hours now.
That's true. One thought that I had, though, is you guys have so much tenure and time spent with these characters in the MCU between 5 movies and a TV series. And I was just wondering, when it comes to writing a movie like Avengers Endgame, is it easy to write for these characters, or are you still struggling to do your best?
Oh, we always...
Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. That's a condition you should look into. Yeah. Listen,
Does your phone just tell you Endgame showtimes?
My phone did just tell me.
God bless you, sir.
We live in a really weird timeline right now, don't we? Sorry, that was a great question. Go on. Is it easy to write for these characters after all these years?
Certainly, we've been living in the Marvel Universe for 10 years. And so when we have to reach back for an idea or a motivation or even an Easter egg, it's not that hard. That said, we always are struggling with the easiest things. It takes us forever to come up with things we think we should have gotten to quicker. That's one of the advice I can give to writers, is that it doesn't get easier. You're always kicking yourself for not having that idea 2 weeks ago.
Are you guys at all... When Infinity War first came out, I remember hearing that some people were surprised at how the audience interpreted the end and felt about the end and the reaction to it. Obviously, you can't cite specific moments here, but now that these aren't test screenings, these are out in the wild, audiences are seeing it. Have you guys at all been surprised by audience reactions in certain points or certain ways?
Well, we live with this for so long. We've known some of these climactic beats since 2015. That necessarily the emotion drains off. You can't cry every time you're going through the script. Really? You're getting touched again? So, it's pretty hard to gauge how powerful some of this stuff is. And we just sort of snuck into a screening on opening night and watched, and there were people sobbing all around me. And it almost makes you, well, should we have done this? These people are upset.
Chris, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes. I have none. I have neither.
Kate, what do I got left? I got one more. All right, one more question. Let's see, microphone. Go for it.
Hey, thank you so much for coming out here. We
Thanks,
really
man.
appreciate it. So, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, 3 of Marvel's biggest ensemble films. You're working with all these different characters. Is there ever a point in the writing process where you're like, would Star-Lord say this? Let's contact James Gunn. Would he do this? Would he? Anything like that? How close are you working with these creators of these characters?
Periodically checking in, different ones to different extent. Depending also if they're working on a movie while we're working on a movie, then we really have to coordinate better. We pretty good grasp of what has come before, so we have the voices down, we have a lot of that down. But say they were making Ragnarok while we were making this, so we didn't know about new, funny, out there Thor.
Wild.
And Chris Hemsworth told us, he said, we're taking me in a different direction you should probably know about that. And we were like, thank you for that. So Taika and Chris flew to Atlanta from Australia, for God's sake, and we sat with them for a couple of days, going through our script and seeing clips of their movie and coordinating the tone so that we wouldn't be taking him back to some sort of stiff old Thor.
How many other, was it just Ragnarok? How many movies were being made while you were doing, no, because you were working on this for years.
This is movie 19 and 22, right? And there were 2 in between, Captain Marvel and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And as we were starting, actually remember, we started shooting. Like 3 weeks later, Black Panther starts shooting. Mm-hmm. Wow. They finish.
They left.
They leave. We wave goodbye. We keep shooting. Ant-Man and the Wasp shows up. They shoot. They finish. We wave goodbye. We keep shooting. Guardians 2 was sort of wrapping up when we first started, and
Captain
Ragnarok
Marvel shot and came out before we.
Yeah, it's great.
Not to get too in the weeds, but when all those things are happening simultaneously, is there ever like, all right, we're going to be using your set for their movie for a day and a half because that's how the scheduling works out? But you got like, is that at that point? My God, the producer. Yeah.
Although it's.
Well, we remember in Wakanda, we sort of had to rebuild.
Oh yeah, we borrowed a little Wakanda.
Little Wakanda, yeah.
What a great little phrase.
And then
borrowed a little
Wakanda.
KZ, we got to wrap it up. We're out of time. Yep, that's. She just did the Wakanda forever. Gentlemen, sincerely, thank you.
Thank you.
It's not just a movie, it's a freaking achievement, man. What you guys have pulled off is really something. And like I said in the introduction, I'll say it again, prior to actually seeing it, I would have thought it impossible, but you did it. You crushed it, you nailed it. You gave us something that's going to withstand the test of time for decades, that people are going to watch forever, over and over. People are already watching over and over. So sincerely and genuinely, thank you for that. And thank you for being here. I know you got a trillion things to do, so it's nice that you came and hung out with us.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure.
I want to thank our audience for some amazing questions and being a perfect audience. Thank you for watching online as well. Go see Avengers Endgame again, or for the first time if you haven't seen it yet. Go see it for the first time. Go see it for the second, third, fourth, and fifth time. Either way, just make sure you see it and make a ridiculous amount of noise. And join me in thanking Christopher, Markus, and Stephen McFeely right here. Come on.